everybody. Thanks for having us. Clearly, there's about 25, maybe 30 more people waiting to hear us talk, so that's kind of very exciting. We have a lot of very cool visuals, a lot of good takeaways, a lot of good notes for you, so make sure to take notes. My name is Armando. I am the managing partner at Spider Boost. We're located here in Miami. We have satellite offices in LA and New York. And I'm excited to share some of the data, some of the information that I have. I'm definitely creative, but metric driven. Everything that I do is based on numbers, on consumer experiences, and lots of information I want to share with you. Excited to be here.
All right. Hi guys, my name is Rodrigo Couture. Call me Rod, it's easier. I'm a creative director at the community. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you so much for bringing me together, making us happy families. Like Armando said, I have some stuff to share with you guys. I think he comes from a very strong analytics background and from more of like a holistic, creative background. So I think this is a great, mediation and have a great conversation with like similar point of views from how they work, and that will be a really good combination and something that you guys can take with you after the finish. But yeah, thank you very much.
Do you mind shouting just a bit more? Because there's a lot of background noise and I closed the door. And I'm going to try to be more of our live Thank you so much.
Okay, so before we kick things off, I guess I'll give you a little bit of background on what I do. My name is Andrea. I am the bilingual team reporter for the Florida Panthers. So people are like, what are the Florida Panthers? It's a hockey team. We have a hockey team. It's not Florida.
Yeah!
That's how you make it. Ice hockey. Yes, you'll see something like hockey. What's that? Well, definitely this panel is something that's near and dear to me. I love social media, and especially as a sports reporter and entertainment reporter, it's all about social media. So when I was asked to moderate this actual panel, I was like, oh, pick me. And when I really was able to look into these two gentlemen's background, I was incredibly impressed. So you all are definitely in for a treat. So any update on our room situation? Okay, you know what? Let's kick things off. Looks like we're a little bit snug as a dog in a rug. Okay, awesome. So overall, obviously creating content that engages and sells. We want to have an idea overall how you look at this entire philosophy, especially a bird's eye approach. And then little by little we'll get more specific in regards to what you become passionate and really what you see the trends are.
Yeah, all right, so this is my part. The question really is what's our philosophy for creating visuals? And for me, as Rob was saying, I think a lot begins at the very beginning. I like to think like a content creator. Before you ever dive into any creative concept, think about what you're trying to accomplish. So I have a couple of 3 different points that I want to talk through. Number 1, if you're looking to educate, if you're trying to teach people about a specific product you're selling, or trying to teach them about anything that you're trying to market for, the first thing I want to do is be transparent. Definitely have some sort of credibility. Whether it's a tagline, whether it's number 1 most used in the world, whatever little slogan, whatever little bit of information that can help the consumer get that immediate credibility with you, it's definitely going to make it easier to push your creative, effective creative. Curiosity is a big one that we're going to be discussing here today as well. If you're educating, think about the curious person. What are they trying to learn about? What should you tell them that's going to satisfy that curiosity in the consumer's mind? The second point, if you're not educating, you're entertaining. If you're going to entertain with your advertising, with your creative, some of the points that I always like to push are intrigue. Make sure you're intriguing. You're creating something that's intriguing, something that draws your attention so that you can capture that user's attention. Or be suspenseful. Humor is always really good in advertising. We use it all the time. Fun, be clever. Clever ideas are great for sticky slogans, especially. And the last point I like to push through when we're at the very beginning of any sort of creative that we do, is if you're going to inspire, if you're looking to inspire, you do it with heart. Make sure it comes from inside of you. Make sure that there's a purpose that you can relate to the people, to the audience that you're speaking to. Always put yourself in their shoes. Look at it from their point of view, so that it becomes easier to communicate whatever creative you're coming up with. So for me, I really do like to think like a content creator before I ever dive into any sort of creative endeavor.
Cool. Well, my background, I'm an art director from the 90s, like you call myself. I started with in the era of strong visual ads and print and really working with the craft, having the universal language. So that's part of who I am and where I came from. During the early 2000s, it was slowly adjusting ourselves to this new universe. And then when we saw the rebirth of visual again, back at the end of the decade, it's been like a pleasure. It's been like a natural space for us to thrive in. When it comes to the content creation, I think one thing that we keep pushing and talking to our partners is very much about where do you start, because it's very easy and it's kind of old school, to be honest, to start from the brand, to start from like what do you want to say, what do you want to push out there for people to know about you. And what we try to do is like reverse that, what people want to hear. Let's just start with that. Let's just start like what consumers want to hear out there. And then let's find something on what we have on our products, on our message that will resonate, on that side. So we build all of our messages. We're going to talk about that starting from the consumer. There's an interesting story. So
to this point, I like this point on that. Always reverse engineer. Like, what's the final takeaway? Start with that. That's a really good strategy, especially sometimes as creatives we get mind freezes and it's tough. So these are good bullet points that we're bringing up that I do think bring great system for you to go and create. So I think we can go to the next question.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. In regards to how you approach your visuals, I mean, obviously we get bombarded with so many messages, but as a creative mind, where do you guys start from scratch? Is it a board? Are there post-its? Is it a notebook? I mean, how do you approach that specifically?
So in my clients in particular are very transactional. We're always selling something, whether we're selling cars, whether we're selling subs and Subway, whatever it is that we're doing, we're always selling something. And I've had the pleasure of going to the Google headquarters. I was there 2 weeks ago, and something that they were pushing a lot of is that the journey of the consumer is a combination of moments. It's no longer just, hey, I want to buy that car, here's the brochure, read the car, read the brochure. You might start on your iPhone doing research. You might move on to your computer at home at nighttime and continue reading the competitor to see what they have. Then you go to consumer review websites at work to see what they think about that particular car. So the answer that I have is always the customer journey. The customer journey is a combination of moments. So when you're going through the visual approach, you want to capture the moments that matter at the right time with the right message, right? So some of the phases, I broke it down into 4 different phases of the customer that you should always keep in mind. Phase number 1 is research, especially with the incredible amount of data that we have available to us today and review websites. The first step for anybody before they go on any sort of purchase journey is research. From day 0 to day 4, that's typically this data straight from Google. Day 0 to day 4 is when most people are doing their research and considering what they're going to purchase and really educating themselves. After that, after they qualify what their needs are, they move on to consideration. So there could be different messages that you hit these consumers with during those different phases. And there's ways of doing that with social media channels. There's ways of doing that with digital banners, with print advertising. It's a combination of moments. Again, you always have to remember what phase in that customer journey are you talking to that consumer. The next one is the purchase. When they actually purchase and when they buy from you, what's their experience? What are you giving to them as they become your new client, as they become your new customer? How do you make them love your brand after they've done that? So there's a lot of visuals that you can come up with for the person that actually becomes a client. And this is the one that's most forgotten about, is the post-purchase. After a person becomes your client, what's the visual approach there? Do you just stop advertising to them? Do you just not worry about them? And the best approach is that you should absolutely have some sort of visual, some sort of messaging for those that already bought from you and you want them to come back, whether you're selling a camera and later down you start pushing the extra battery or whatever it is that you're pushing, you always have to consider all these different moments that occur so that your creative can fulfill the different sections of the customer journey.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We're talking about that. Those 4 points, those 4 phases, they could also exist in how you bring the message out. Right? So we're talking about the process here of purchase, but when you think about how you bring your message from start to finish, starting with the people, that also applies. So when you think about it, like, okay, I have a brand, and let's just say it's Converse, like one of our clients. So we have to first identify who are we talking to? Like, what is our audience? What do they like? Where they are sitting? Like what kind of media their consumption, and then work from that. So after that, we go into our brand position, our brand strategy. So we decide how we're going to engage with these guys. After that, we get into this creative, this big idea platform, right? Then we have an engagement strategy. Right, when you think about that, okay, once we define who these people are, once we define the idea is, how do we get that to be placed where these people are, and so there's engagement. Eventually, we're going to land in the channel, right? What channel makes sense for these people? And when we talk about visual Instagram, as you see it on the example here, was what made sense for us. And eventually, you have your content calendar, which is like how we're delivering and what consistency in each places. So to talk about an example of that. We have this idea that we did for Converse in Brazil. This was a Latin American project, Brazil specifically. We called it Fight the Gray. That was the idea. Converse came to us and said, hey, we have this global platform called Colors. And you guys have to do something that will work, physically, but also works strongly in social media. That will push the values of the brand, that will engage with this type of audience that we want to engage with, and get the brand, talked about in Brazil. So what we discovered was that São Paulo, first of all, was a city that Converse was, in the most. Why? Because it's a city of concrete, basically. It's like the New York of the tropics. So okay, let's go there. Let's make that our destination. Then we found the people that we were after, which were like street people, right? Not just skateboarders, people that were actually living and doing things at their streets. And then we decided that there was something that these people were complaining about, was that the city had very little color. It was like, okay, this is a gray, a city that's completely covered in gray. And it doesn't matter what I do for the city, it doesn't matter how I bring, my life and my experience to the city, it's still a gray city. So we decided to make this campaign, which was like, donating your shadows. So the idea was that, people in the city, from skateboarders to people, couples walking by, they could stop, would like chalk mark, their shadows, and we give it to like the street artists to go and add some color to it. So we did that like in many places around the city, and the city was covered with shadows. And after that, after the whole thing started being talked about, during a period of time, we brought that to Instagram. So on Instagram, we started asking people to submit their shadows from wherever they were in the world, to be colored by these people. And we had a whole gallery on Instagram, and it was great, And again, this gives us a great example of like starting with the people, finding something in the brand that we can do and deliver against that. That's the story.
Well, it definitely is really beautiful that you can sell it in a print. I mean,
Yeah.
especially when you really.
What?
Do you sell it at all in terms of a print and poster print?
No. This was like oil social objects. It was out there, and then it was everybody. It was an outdoor piece, but.
Like moving forward, for example, what companies are doing it right? Considering that this is such a crowded space, and you get to a point like what, who to emulate and what really moves you, who out there in terms of a person that could be an influencer or an actual company, who do you think is doing it right out there?
All right. I can talk about that project. So anyway, here we go. This is not something that we did, but it's something that I quite like. Mercedes-Benz is for the GLA. It's something that I quite like on Instagram again. The brands that are doing right, in my opinion, are the brands that have a very clear purpose, right? Like, okay, this is what we stand for. This is what we're going to do, and then they serve content that delivers against that purpose. So we talk about fighting the gray. In this case here was like, okay, let's celebrate the people who are driving the GLA, and let's celebrate by showing how they're driving, bringing content, showing who they are and how they do it. And the way they found on Instagram to do it was basically to get to organize the different characters, different people, belongings on top of the mats. This was great, and I think it's still running right now. In our case, we did something for Salsa 901. That again, it's the purpose of the brand was to like reinvent premium, to rethink of premium, like make premium like, go from the old premium to the new premium. And we landed on this position of premium remaster. And we had this figure called Justin Timberlake, which for us is an emblem of like, premium remaster. This is a guy who carries all the classic values of what the old premium is, yet he does it in a very unique way. So we celebrated him and the founder of Casa Salsa, which is like Don Salsa, in this campaign called Premium Remaster. And basically what the campaign was consisted of was, very strong look and feel. So we were consistent, with the bars and all that, but also with really interesting messages. So what we had was like quotes from supposedly Don Salsa wrote, twisted, by Justin Timberlake. He delivered in like, be it like, posts, be it like really in-store things, or like, whatever the format was, including videos like this one.
Because as Don Salsa used to say, you can take a horse across a bridge. But if that bridge is burning, you ain't gonna make it.
So it was just like stupid like quotes and like from print to video and targeting special dates. So like there's something for Day of the Dead. There's something for like Father's Day and so forth. So the whole year made of that.
Because as Don Salsa used to say, a one-legged man ain't winning no ass-kicking contest.
Yeah, so again, like 500 of those pieces, including even like cards with recipes. That again, we did that twist of like remastering premium. So premium recipes that we did in our own way. Again, we had a purpose. We checked on it. 500 of those the whole year, and it worked. So.
So some of the companies that I look to, and I narrowed it down to just 2 companies so that you guys can explore and learn about them. So I'm going to start with HBO. I've had the pleasure of working with HBO this year, and their culture, to Rod's point, it comes from the top down, and they're driving the power of the story. And I'm sure there's plenty of HBO fans here, and you'll notice that everything that they're doing recently is all about the storytelling. What stories are they pushing? How are they telling that story? And that's one of the companies that really impressed me, because it's everybody there. They're telling stories, whether it's Game of Thrones, whether it's True Detective, or any of their reality series. They're pushing stories. They're trying to get you back into the campfire and the marshmallows and get you excited about the story. And I think that's what creative is all about. It's about engaging people and really taking them to a place far, far away where they are princes and kings and frogs and the whole 9 yards, right? The second company that I really think has done it right is Google. And Google didn't get it right from the first time. In fact, they'll let you know that they got it wrong a lot of times. And they started over. Remember Google Glasses? Google Glasses are gone now. They took them off the shelf. So
What
there's
about a pair of Google Glasses? You see?
no way. So they'll be the first ones to let you know that they don't do it right from the first get-go. And their slogan right now for this year is 10x, like number 10 and times, right? 10 times. And what that really means is that they're challenging every one of their employees to take anything they've done, especially for this group, take it, your best creative that you guys have ever done. The one that is like, this defines me, this defines my skill. Break it down and do it 10 times better. So they took Google Maps, they deconstructed it and made it 10 times better. The Google car that drives itself, deconstructed and made it 10 times better. That is the philosophy and the mindset that these leadership companies need to have as forward thinkers. They challenge themselves to whatever you did, whatever is impressive, great. How could you have done it 10 times better? And if you can get yourself in that mindset to always be thinking, not how could have made it a little bit better, not twice as much, but just 10 times better. I do think that is challenging, but it helps you grow as a creative. It helps you grow as a marketer and advertiser. So again, HBO, the power of the story, and Google with the 10X. I think those are two really good companies that are doing it right. And like you said, it comes from the culture. It comes right back down from the brand.
There's something more influential. You want to go into that path?
We're going to try to expedite things along because we have a lot of people and there's definitely a lot of questions. But if you want to touch on that.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think the thought of influentials, and I even had something to share with you guys, which was quickly with Paul Octavius. He's a great guy for photographer. Yeah, and Remy is also somebody that we quite like. But I think there's two types of influentials, and I think that conversation is a quick one, but I'd say it's an important one. There's the one that inspires you, right? The person that it's out there and it's like reading new things, and you go to either like a website, or if it's a photographer or Instagram, whatever that is, or YouTube, that gets you like your juice is going. And there's the influential that has like 3 billion views and 3 billion followers, and the brands try to tag themselves to them because they want to have those 3 billion views, 3 billion people like looking at their ads. And I think that's something that I still struggle with, because for me it's the whole shampoo endorsement. We just moved from like celebrities to like YouTube influentials. So I think there's a danger there, and something I just wanted to voice, because yeah, that's great if you got somebody that has again 3 million followers, but that person should be within a certain idea, a certain message, and a certain thing that is owned by the brand. Give the example of Justin Timberlake. We didn't just use him like because it's him. We used him because he was an emblem of like something, and he obviously has a lot of followers, which helped a lot. So sorry for the question.
A lot of passion behind that for sure. A huge speed bump that keeps me up at night, for example, is the creative aspect versus the ROI. I mean, you cannot have one without the other, and if you're creative, sometimes you can't really wrap your head around, and sometimes obviously your superiors, they want the ROI, and some creatively we call it the dirty word. So in regards to your visual approach and how you actually execute it and really convince your superiors or whatever, your actual client, how do you convince them it's worth it, you will get your return on investment? How do you guys balance both?
So we actually had a good conversation between Ron and myself about this. And the first thing, and we're going to keep this in this room, that's a trap question. Don't just be really careful on what you're promising, what expectations you're setting with your client or with
Keyword expectations, that's my favorite word.
You gotta set your expectations, and it's always better to just be cautious and side on that side of caution. Now, when it comes to actual return on investment on creative, that's not really a talk that us creative people ever have to worry about. We just have to come up with the prettiest picture, the best slogan, the best photo, and boom, it sells, right? Not anymore. We live in a world now where metrics and analytics and data are driving our world, and it's really important for you to understand, number one, what can be tracked, what can be tagged. Anything that's digital, social shares, social followers, impressions, clicks, conversions, of course all that can be shared. But what about the brand voice? What about the influencers that came after that? It's really some things are not measurable. So for me, when it comes to return on investment, it's really a delicate conversation that we really put it on them. We tell them, okay, what are you trying to accomplish with this? What do you expect to see? And then we'll work with them to maybe balance those out. But don't fall into the trap where you say, hey, if you go with me, I'm going to get you 10 times more sales than you've ever gotten. It's a trap question.
No, I agree. I think ROI, there's some very creative people with ROI too. So how they set it up, and how they say that they are succeeding, in their return, it's also very creative. But I mean, I'm a creative. I understand metrics, and I'm not a metrics person, but I have to respond to metrics. Right? Metrics is my boss. It's like half of the, the other half of the brain. So I have to be diligent to that. So continuing on what Armando's saying here, I think it's important for a client to understand and set up the expectations correctly about what their return is. You know, if you're in social media, you know, I mean, I think we're basically talking about inspiration, brand awareness. We're not talking about pushing sales. I mean, you might even have cases like that, but it's not the nature of it. You know what I'm saying? You cannot compare it to banners. You have big true that it's just like boom, it's easy to measure, right? So I think we had cases, you know, in the agency and even before, on which we had like extremely successful campaigns and extremely like viral ideas that, you know, performed like well outside where their space was because they were shared properly. But they did not give the client what they were expecting to get out of that investment was a misguided kind of thing. So, and the last part of it that I want to hit too, it's like for me, like the ROI thing is, I call it return on interest versus return on investment. Because you get that person, it doesn't matter. And that's where creative comes in. So I think, yeah, the great thing about social media is that you're getting somebody in a certain specific thing, you know, certain specific like, and you go after that person in that space. But if you do something cool that engages with that and gives something that the person is expecting to see again from their angle, it's not going to happen. It takes time.
Return on interest.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to ask a couple more questions, and then we were going to give it to you all. So, in regards to technologies, are there any technologies that you love to lean on when you're trying to execute a creative?
So different points of view on this one too, which is great for the crowd. So for me, it's analytics and data. I like to study the data of previous experiences of interaction between the brand and the consumers. I like to see what has worked, what slogans, what key messaging, what click here button has worked, all that kind of stuff. Every client that you encounter, hopefully, are going to have some sort of idea of stuff that did work in the past, maybe they didn't know why. The second thing that I like to use, and remember, this is a big one. We live in a world where our presentations are multi-screen. As of right now, we have screen 1, screen 2, the screen on your phone, the iPad that just left the room. You have to remember that sometimes your creative has to be legible in every one of those screens, and it has to be adaptable to every one of those. So Google Chrome does a great job with extensions. And there's a couple extensions in there that allow you to resize the screen as if it was an iPhone, as if it was an iPad. So Google Chrome extensions are great for that, especially when you're in the production process. I love doing that, and there's nothing better than the actual technology that you have in your hands, the iPhone and the iPads, and using that. That's what I like to do.
Cool. For me, as a creative, my favorite technology is curiosity. I think it's like, you know, if you don't have curiosity, there's no technology. You know, it's like you have to go out there, you have to explore, you have to, you know, to look for things and then try to figure out stuff by yourself. You know, the curiosity to get out of the phone. You know, to like, you always like, we spend the whole day here. But if you look around, you know, if you make eye contact with somebody, if you see somebody's behavior, you know, something happening, that gets you like, you know, something that, you know, none of the internet, you know, will give you, like, because that shit already exists. You know, like, what doesn't exist is what's around you, what's about to happen. So I think for me, that comes way before any technology, and that curiosity, you know, to not be afraid of making mistakes and trying new things is what guides us all to do something new.
Okay, wonderful. I know we have so much to talk about, but I definitely want to start giving everybody the floor. We definitely need to get out of here 10 minutes prior to So, questions, and please refrain from interrupting each other and all of this stuff, because we're going to try to get through a lot of these. So, questions? Oh, really? Okay, Steve. So, start thinking about your questions, and then we will give the floor to you guys. Yes? Okay.
So what do you think of a brand like Apple that doesn't have its own social media presence? Like they don't have a social property?
What I think in regards to them not adopting social, I think it's lazy. I think they probably could have, the problem with them is that they lost Steve Jobs, right? And that was their creator, that was their left brain, that was their outside of the box thinker. So they've done a lot of moves that might not make sense to us, but in the future it might. When it comes to social engagement and that, yeah, I think that it's a loss for them. Yeah, obviously social media works. We are a social world. I mean, this whole conference is based on social media, so it's on them. They must have a reason why.
While they continue to do things that generate conversation on social media, they don't need social media. There's like a lot of spontaneous, you know, mentions and, good or bad.
Well, it's cool because you have two very different responses, lazy and they don't need it, so it's just very interesting because it's all, yes.
As far as like timing when you're posting, do you think that timing matters or is it just dependent on the content that you're posting?
Timing is absolutely part of the equation. I remember a slide that we did. I'll give you an example. About 2 years ago during the Super Bowl, the lights went out. And the number one brand that took advantage of that was Oreo. Oreo came out with, it took 3 seconds to create a gradient from black to white, and a cookie in the middle, that said you can still dunk in the dark. and Oreo got like 30 million, yeah, genius, 30 million likes, all free, because of timing. So that's an example of timing in a real life event, but there is also metrics that tell you that some of your audience might have a higher probability of engaging on Tuesday nights or watching video during X time during the day. So there are a lot of platforms out there that will help you with them, they'll tell you that, but I do think that timing is a variable in that formula.
Yes, sir.
Yes, do you think that the consumer journey replaces the old consumer structure in terms of, or the consumer funnel, whatever?
Yeah, I think I understand the question. There is no longer the traditional customer journey that traditional marketers were accustomed to with print and billboards and TV. Before it was really easy. Like I take out a TV commercial, follow it up with newspapers, magazines, print ads, and boom, we're selling. The customer journey now is a combination of moments. And part of going back to the Google conference, they used the example of a Superman movie. A person might see it on Facebook, hey, my friend is going to go see it at 7 p.m. Cool. Keep walking. He looks at his phone, he opens his manual to see what time they close his movie is. He's like, all right, doesn't buy tickets. Then 3 hours later, he's at home, logs in, and buys it from the computer. So the takeaway there is, the customer journey and the customer acquisition process has completely changed, but us as a society have not changed how we buy or how we are sold. It's just that we have instant access to information that we don't have to be as prepared before we go purchase. We can do it immediately. We can pick up a device. So it's a combination of moments, and that's really what we have to focus on. Identifying all the different moments when that customer is researching, when that customer is ready to purchase, when they selected the right product. That's the real challenge here. And doing the creative for the specific moments is what we're working on.
There's something about that mixed with your question that I think it's interesting. We're an agency that deals with multicultural audiences, right? So we're used to deal with people that come from Quebec, from Brazil, and also America. In the Spanish school, like speak English at home and English, Spanish at home and English at work. And we like to talk about what we call the cultural elasticity. Because before in America, think about it, like Spanish, we were kind of like, on outside, right? And there was this center where, general market was, America was, they were kind of to go in, right? And then it changed. Now it's all about love, it's all inclusive. Everybody's American, everybody's great, right? But it's like, fuck, that's not how I feel. I feel like sometimes I'm American, sometimes I'm Brazilian, like sometimes I'm at home and I act in a certain way that I'll never act at work. Sometimes even at work, I think in a certain way to step ahead, that it's like, shit, I'm thinking like a Brazilian right now. So I think that context is very important when brands are playing together. So when we talk about timing, yes, there's the timing of the opportunity. There's also the timing and the context to connect with somebody that's based on how that person is behaving, especially, when it comes to multicultural. Yeah. So when we talk about the consumer, it's not your traditional journey, but when you think about the day in the life of, there are moments and things when you think of mobile, especially, like that you can get that guy, hyper-target him in the moment that you go, fuck, he's Brazilian right now. Let's get him like with that kind of like language. Let's give him American over there. For cars, it works really well. For like, liquor, it works really well too. So it's like, we've been experimenting with that and it's been quite successful. So.
Any more questions?
So you talk about moments, and I've seen brands investing all their advertising budget in only social media. What about other sites like email accounts, news sites? All this. Like what is like again talking about the moments? What is like
the journey of a customer, it's so fragmented now, right? And about 3 years ago, we used to struggle with this. It's like, man, when somebody clicks on my website, I have 8 seconds to get their attention or their passing throughout that website. And we struggled with it, with that idea of just coming up with the creative that's going to go boom, grab you, and bring you into the site. And the beauty of it is that they came out with something called remarketing. And remarketing, for me, retargeting as well, they use different names for it. Remarketing, for me, is that piece of the puzzle that's most important across everything. If they interact with you through social media, you tag them, and you can follow them on different websites to show them the value, to constantly push your brand, to be on top of mind. And whether it's MiamiHerald.com or whatever other piece, the display network is so big that it really just becomes a challenge of getting that person to interact with your social channel or your website once, and you can continually follow them and communicate different messages and test different messages until they buy. So retargeting is that portion that just will put everything together for you.
Follow up on that question, how time consuming is it to remarket and retarget?
Not very. Not very. There's different strategies, right? So one of the things that we do at the agency is that we treat customers based on the time of last interaction. So if they came to my website from, I'll give you an example of Miami Aquarium. The Miami Aquarium office offers the swim with dolphins, right? So a person goes to the website and say, oh, I wonder what it's like to swim with dolphins, how much does it cost? From day 0 to 5, I'm going to follow you with a banner that says, hey, come back and swim with dolphins for $200. From day 6 to 10, I'm going to give you a discount, or I'm going to give you free photography during your whole process. From day 20 to 30, I'm going to throw everything at them and say, hey, 30% off.
From the dolphin.
And you can take the dolphin home. With the targeted banners. And that can all be set up in 30 minutes. So all these little buckets based on time, you can prepare for that because the cookie that tags and tracks everybody is constant. So it's just a matter of fragmenting that and targeting that.
One last question, I'm going to give it back to these gentlemen. Question. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, okay, yes.
In terms of visual content, there's a lot of moves going towards video with Periscope, Snapchat, all those things. A lot of the examples that you showed in your presentation is heavily on the print side or static side. What is your thoughts on how culturally that's moving?
I think videos. I don't have because they don't want to play something on it, but we do a lot of it, in terms of quantity. But there's one thing that we try to stick to, which is simple and visual. As a visual, you can give it some time, especially on Facebook, starts playing without even hearing what's going on. And also short. So I think Vine is a great example. We try to use Vine as much as we can. With Instagram, we've done like a series of 20-something pieces for Corona this summer, which were targeting that space. So yeah, we're definitely embracing it. I think it's as important, as
And I'll add on to that. Video is kind of like the forgotten marketing channel, but not anymore. YouTube and Google have made a huge push for everybody to advertise online. HBO and Netflix took over and changed how we watch TV. Social media channels like Vine, like Instagram now too, you can have video on it, and those messages, that's definitely part of the mix, and I think it's more impactful. You can sell so much easier when you're on video than when you just print ad. So I think that it's definitely coming back, and it's definitely going to take over.
There are two boundaries I think that we haven't broke yet properly. One is Snapchat, for sure.
Right.
I think I haven't seen anything on Snapchat that makes people like, fuck, that's it. Against that content. But the thing that for me it's going to be the thing, it's VR. Like once we get into VR, and they might take 1 year, might take 5 years, go to virtual reality, the headsets. That forget everything you know. That's a new game. And I think that's for social media, for
For marketing, virtual reality.
This is it. It's going to be something.
Any more questions? I know that we don't want to miss anybody. Okay, before we start winding things down, I have a couple of and don'ts. I mean, you look at this space, it's fun, it could be complicated, a little bit overwhelming. I mean, from your personal perspective, you know, from your passion, not so much from a textbook perspective. But your do's and don'ts, somebody that wants to come up to you like, I love this, but I have no idea what to do.
Okay, so we compiled this list together, and Rob always found this, right? So I'll start. I always go with what not to do. I think that the first thing is don't put so much pressure on yourself. You know, be nice to yourself. Don't think you're gonna get it right because you won't. You're not perfect. Creative is not meant to be perfect. You're not gonna get the Mona Lisa right the first time. So definitely don't stress. Don't put all that stress on yourself, and love yourself. Don't think you're gonna get it right the first time. Go in with that mindset. Number two, try lots of concepts. Try lots of ideas. There's a few creative I got to work with that will literally just stick a pen out, do stick figures, and knock out 10, 15 different concepts through stick figures. They'll come back and revisit it and see what worked best. So definitely try lots of different ideas, lots of concepts. What not to do. Don't make great content when you finally do it and then don't promote it. Like I've seen endless companies spend endless money on great creative, they never promote it. So I want to give you guys an example of Dove. Dove did a real beauty, kind of like a social experiment where they had women come in and talk to a cartoonist, and the cartoonist would draw them, or draw a cartoon of them, and it turns out that their self-image was like 2-3 grades below what how beautiful they really were. And for Dove to actually get that message out and make it viral, for every 4 paid views, they had 1 free view. So they invested heavily in that. And it's because they believed in it, because they knew it was great theater, and they knew it was going to stick. So don't make great content and then don't promote it. I think that's the other takeaway.
Yeah. I think I have 2 things on top of that. One is get ready for technology. Like, I mean, some people go straight to technology and forget about the purpose and why we're doing this. So never forget that. There's no idea, there's no technology. And then, like, I like to talk to my clients and my partners and compare the brands to like being at a party. You know, especially on social media, I mean, that's the perfect environment to talk about that. It's like, it's not the person who talks the loudest, you know, or the person who's like, you know, active, you know, like this, who gets the, you know, the attention. Is the coolest, you know, the person who like talks the right thing at the right time, who's hanging out with the right people. So when you think of your brand, think of your own, you know, brand. Think of it as such, you know, think as you're at a party and like you want to pursue this.
A couple more points that I want to give you guys is there's the KISS model, keep it simple, stupid. That's definitely
My favorite.
Especially in today's world where we have that phone in our pocket at all times. The simpler, the easier, because you just have to. The screens are this big. The second one is embrace typography. Finally, we're in a typography revolution. Some of the great work that he did with Salsa, you'll see the typography, how it just brings out a whole new creative. So definitely embrace type. Definitely learn it, definitely study it. I think that's something that's definitely undermined. And if I have to give you like one key recipe in all of our success, is definitely typography. Embrace it and learn it, because you can do so much with words and just the beauty behind it. It excites me because I just know how they execute. And the last thing is mobile first. Obviously, if you haven't heard that, then you're late to the party. Always think mobile first. One of the other takeaways that Google was doing is, this is a great, like, mind-blowing stat I'm going to give you. The average American unlocks their phone an average of 150 times per day. That is ridiculous. Yeah, that's one of the guys think the sex every 8 seconds. So 150 times per day that customers that everyday consumers are opening that phone. So remember, if anybody's going to see your message or your creative, it's going to be on that screen first. So think mobile first and keep it simple.
Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, but before we do this, real quick, what do you think we will be chatting about next year here at Social Media? I don't know, it's a loaded question.
Hope it's not Donald Trump.
Periscope, I do think Periscope is going to take off. You're having your own little TV channel and how you get followers. I think Periscope is definitely going to be a part of the next level. I also think that virtual reality, there's something for it costs $15. It's called a Google Cardboard. If you guys haven't seen that, it's really cool. It's virtual reality made out of cardboard, and you just put your phone in there and you can do 360 views and all kinds of stuff. So I think we are going to embrace virtual reality. I spoke about
The Oculus Rift is launching its product finally delivering this Christmas, so I mean, it's a reality.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. Before we wrap things up, say hello to that camera, everyone. We're going to take a really awesome picture and turn around.
This one.
Yeah,
Wrong lens. Hold on, give me 2 seconds.
okay, well, let's give you
I got
an
you back,
amazing round of